Number 1 is asking you to solve the proportion. So to solve proportions, you cross multiply. So we have 4 times x equals 12 times 9. 4 times x is 4x. 12 times 9 is 108. Divide both sides by 4, you get x equals 27 for number 1. Going to number 3, same idea. We cross multiply. So we have 2 times 11x plus 8 equals 8 times 5x minus 10. So we distribute and we get 22x plus 16 equals 40x minus 80. I would subtract 22 from both sides and get 16 equals 18x minus 80. Then add 80 to both sides and we get 96 equals 18x. So then x would equal 96 over 18, which reduces to 16 over 3. And that is number 3. Going to number 6, we need to simplify the radical expression. So what we do is look for the largest perfect square factor of 180. In this case, it is 36, because 36 times 5 gives you 180, and 36 is the largest perfect square factor, meaning I could take the square root of it. So the square root of 36 will be 6, so then we'd have 6 radical 5 as my answer for number 6. Number 7 is the same idea. So the largest perfect square factor of 128 would be 64. So 64 times 2 gives you 128. So we have 1/2 times the square root of 64 times the square root of 2. The square root of 64 is 8. So 1/2 times 8 is 4. So 4 radical 2 is my answer for number 7. Number 8. I need to multiply these together. So in radicals, I multiply outside to outside, inside to inside. So 27 times 32 is 864. Now the largest perfect square factor of 864 will be 144 from 144 times 6. The square root of 144 is 12, so we have 12 radical 6 for number 8. And when we're dividing radicals, we cannot have a radical at the bottom, so we need to rationalize. By doing that, we multiply the top and the bottom by the denominator, which is radical 3. So then we multiply across. Radical 8 times radical 3 is radical 24. Radical 3 times radical 3 is radical 9, which the square root of 9 is 3. So we have square root of 24 over 3. But then the square root of 24 could be broken down into large perfect square factors, which in this case will be radical 4 times radical 6. Square root of 4 is 2, so then 2 radical 6 over 3 will be my answer for number 10. So for number 11, we are solving by taking the square root. So to get x, we take the square root of x squared, which is x, and the square root of 121 is 11 and negative 11. So those are both of your answers for number 11. Number 12, the idea is the same, but we got to get the x squared by itself first. So you add 4 to both sides and we get 12. Now again, to get the x squared by itself, we divide both sides by 3, which is 4. The square root of x squared and 4 will be x and then 2 and negative 2. So x equals 2 and negative 2. Number 14, same idea as number 12. We will add 15 to both sides and we will get 1,408. Divide both sides by 11 and we get x squared equals 128. So take the square root of both sides. We'll have square root of 128 because it isn't a perfect square. So to simplify it, you would get the largest perfect square factor is 64 and 2. So largest perfect square is 64. Square root of 64 is 8. So then 8 radical 2 is the answer for number 14. Number 15, we got to divide both sides by 80 first. So we'll get x squared equals 60 over 80. Simplify 60 over 80, we get 3/4. And to get x from x squared, we got to take the square root of that. So square root of 3/4. Now we can rewrite the square root of 3 over 4 as the square root of 3 over the square root of 4. The square root of 4 will be 2. So the answer will be square root of 3 over 2 for number 15. Number 16, we have a 1/2 here. The reciprocal of 1/2 is 2. So if you multiply both sides by 2, you'll have the fraction gone. So we'll have x squared equals 320 times 2, which is 640. To get x by itself from the x squared, you take the square root of it. So you have square root of 640, which this can be broken down into the square root of 64 times square root of 10, with 64 being the largest perfect square factor. Square root of 64 is 8, so 8 radical 10 is the answer for number 16. 17, we are factoring, so we write down A, B, and C and make a factor table. So A is going to be 1, B is going to be 2, and C is going to be negative 63. A and B are the coefficients of x squared and x. AC will be A times C, which is negative 63. So now we want two numbers that multiply to negative 63, but add up to 2. Those two numbers in this case are going to be 9 and negative 7, because a positive and a negative multiply to be negative, but these two add up to be 2. So then we write it as x plus 9 times x minus 7 as my answer for number 17. Number 18. Again, always when you factor, look for a GCF first. In this one, we can divide out a negative 2 from everything. So dividing out negative 2 from here leaves me with x squared plus 22x plus 40. The signs change. Whenever there's a negative in the front, always take out the negative with it. So then we got to factor this. So write A, B, and C. A is 1, B is 22, C is 40. Use these three for your A, B, and C and not the original. So we're looking for numbers that multiply up to 40 but add up to 22. That would be 20 and 2. 20 times 2 is 40. 20 plus 2 is 22. So that leaves me with x plus 20 times x plus 2, plus you put that GCF back in front for your complete answer for number 18. Number 19. So we have A, B, and C. A is 2, B is 11, C is 5. There is no GCF for this one, so we can't pull anything out. A times C is 10, and B is 11. So we need two numbers that multiply to 10, but add up to 11. That would be 10 and 1. Okay, so now at this point, we rewrite it. So we have the 2x squared plus 11x plus 5. So I'm going to replace my middle term, b, with the 10x plus 1x, which makes up my 11x. And then I'm going to factor by grouping. Put parentheses around the first two terms and around the second two terms. And then find the GCF of each. The GCF of the first two terms is going to be 2x. I can divide a 2 out from both and take an x out of both. So I have 2x. Divide 2x squared by 2x, I'm left with x. Divide 10x from 2x, I'm left with 5. Okay, so I have 2x times x plus 5 plus x plus 5. Now, since these are the same, I did my factor by grouping correctly. They should be the same. So my GCF is x plus 5, which if I take that out of both, I'll have the x plus 5 out. And if I take if I take x plus 5 out of the first one, I have 2x. Take it out of the second one, I just have 1. So my answer for number 19 is just going to be x plus 5 times 2x plus 1.